Hey, good thinkers. Welcome back to Good Thinking Live. We have been away for a couple of weeks, traveling and work stuff that keeps landing on Monday, but we're back and we'll try to be back right here on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube Live as many Mondays as possible. So Mondays, 9 a.m. Pacific time here in the Northwest, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. We're going to try to be here every Monday that we can. So if we're not here, we haven't forgotten about you. I'm just traveling. Welcome, 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 good thinkers. Please, as you know, if you're a regular good thinker, let us know who you are and where you're from in the chat as people start coming on the show. Because today we're going to be borrowing some information and kind of expanding on some information from our new course that just launched on LinkedIn Learning, Anticipating the Future as a Leader. And this is a little bit of a different twist on anticipating the future because this course is about turning possibility into probability. So removing some of the bias thinking and replacing that with probabilistic thinking. So let me say hi to some of the folks. Oh, by the way, before I say hi, I did post a link on LinkedIn to the course. So if you click on that this week, and I think then you can take the course for free. So that's a little hint. If you open it, I think you have to take the course within the first 24 hours of opening it, or the free thing goes away. So don't open until you're ready to take it, to sit for, 54 minutes. Anyway, greetings, everyone. I'm going to start greeting people, welcoming onto the show. First one on, Barkley, joining from DC. Melinda, welcome to the show. Steve from Ohio, fantastic. Ray, who should you pay attention to? Becky Salzman. Okay, come on now. I don't know. We'll see after today. It depends on why, right? But thanks, Ray. Let's see. We've got Steven from Portland, Oregon. Hari, I don't know. That's Instagram. I don't know where you're from. Let us know. Abu Bakar from Qatar, and Debbie from Mississippi. So welcome, good thinkers, to the show. We're going to get started, but keep letting us know who you are and where you're from. And be sure to participate, because this is more of a conversation than, necessarily just me talking at you. As you know, we've got people streaming in from YouTube and from LinkedIn Live. All right. So today's episode isn't really about listening skills, although we should all be aware that, like our focus, our listening skills have suffered collectively. But this is really something different. And by the end, I think you're going to have a framework for knowing who to listen to, which starts with understanding why you're listening in the first place. So that's a little hint. But a friend of mine who's been a teacher for over 15 years told me that she, for years and years and years, like from the beginning of her teaching career, she had her 7th grade class read the book 1984 by George Orwell. And they always loved it. But in the last few years, she said about 5 or 6 years ago, she started getting complaints from all levels of all her students, from the ones struggling with reading to the best readers and everything in between, that it was too complicated. The content was too hard, and that it took too much time to read. So here's my first question, because I want to reach out to you and see why you think this is the case. First of all, does anyone have a clue as to why this is the case? Be sure to share it in the chat. And while you're doing that, I'm going to say hi to a few more good thinkers who have come on the show. We've got, Hari's from India. Aha. Welcome, Hari. So hello from Connecticut. Now, this just shows as a LinkedIn user on the streaming platform, but maybe we'll see in the LinkedIn who this Connecticut good thinker is. And another good thinker from Chicago. And I am from Tamil Nadu. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see, Sandra from Colombia. Greetings from Mumbai. Oh, Arvin, welcome. Some regular good thinkers and some new good thinkers to the show. Fantastic. All right. So assuming that one of the reasons you pay attention to anything is to know stuff, to anticipate the future, to help you navigate the future, to prepare for the future, maybe the future, our future conversations with friends. You want to seem smart. You don't want to be looking like you don't know what's going on. For job interviews, for dates, maybe for video games or future connections. So here's the question. What's better for anticipating the future? What's the best content? Was it important for those students to read George Orwell's 1984? Or you can replace that with any literature that you think is important to read. I mean, this is not a political. I'm talking about literature that has been written in the past versus content that you're consuming on your device. What's more important for preparing for the future? And if consuming content, and we're going to talk about content, then we're going to move from what to pay attention to who to pay attention to. If consuming content is not for preparing for the future, why are we consuming content? So does anyone want to take a stab at that? Anyone want to take a stab? We got 3 questions floating out there. So you can answer, why all of a sudden are these students unable to engage with content that the same cohort of students years and years and years and years have been able to engage in the content? What's different? What do you think? Number 1. Number 2, why do we engage in content? And specifically, why do we pay attention to anyone? Why do we pay attention to anyone? And the third question is, what's the best content and therefore the best people to pay attention to? So those are 3 questions. Come on, have at it. Let me go. Michael is Toronto in the house, another good thinker. So this is what I want. Good thinkers, experienced good thinkers, new good thinkers, everyone, let us know what you're thinking about this, because this is important. And here is the next question. How is what you pay attention to different from who you pay attention to? How are the two obviously related, but how are they different? How are they different? Is what you pay attention to the determinant of who you pay attention to? Or is who you pay attention to the determinant of what you pay attention to? All right, let's see. So Ray says 1984 is too complicated because kids are used to reading about 200 characters max. Yeah, excellent. I think that when you get used to text reading and quick little shortcuts, and maybe there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe there's nothing wrong with it. The only, I think that sometimes with GPS, there may be something wrong with just relying on GPS and not having a spatial awareness. But maybe we don't need, our brains don't need to adapt to that old way of consuming content. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? I'm going to bring in your comments. Abdurrachid, hey, welcome back. Okay, so Uzma says less attention span. Less attention span. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It makes sense. Why? Arvin says, answer to question 1. Maybe their interests have changed in the last few years due to consuming different kinds of content. Okay, so maybe it's not that they can't do it. They're just not interested in it. Excellent. I mean, I think that's a good point. Greetings from North Carolina, Brittany. Okay. Humphrey, am I the only one having network issues here, or is it general? Oh, I don't know. See, I can't tell because I'm just talking into a screen, seeing everyone stream in. But maybe, Humphrey, maybe you're having network issues. It could be StreamYard. Anyway, but keep trying. All right. So Barkley says both. You learn about new things from people you listen to and discover new people talking about topics you follow. All right. Steven says, excellent. Really hard to separate the message from the messenger, but sometimes jerks make good points and really good people make really weak points. I'm going to say that deserves a rubber chicken. All of your comments and your contributions deserve rubber chickens, but this one in particular, because if what you pay attention to is determined by something other than what you may think, and therefore it defaults to who you pay attention to, you may have a better way to optimize. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So I'm excited. All right. So Michael says, with new technology, the question is there too much content to focus on? Cause of stress. I would take a stab at saying that from most of what I know, I'm going to take the banner off so I can have more room for your comments. Most of what I know about neuroscience, which is a fair amount, but not everything, our brains are more designed to filter perception out than to take it in. And it may be, as Michael suggests, overwhelming. It may be overwhelming. And so we don't have time for that slower content. We just have time for snippet content. Okay, so Barkley says, Stephen, heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great comment. Okay, so Barkley included a link. So this is good. The worst person you know just made a great comment. Ooh, okay, the ad hominem fallacy, paying attention to the person and not the message. That is tricky. All right. So when you pick up your phone or device for the first time in the morning, whatever device you pick up, and if you don't pick up a device, I'll be curious to hear how many of you don't pick up a device. But if you pick up a device, who do you pay attention to? Anyone want to share? Anyone brave enough to put in who you pay attention to? I'm going to welcome Al Hassan from Nigeria. Welcome, welcome, new good thinker. Fantastic. All right. Who do you pay attention to? And here's the next question. Is it your choice? Is it your choice who you pay attention to? Or is it notification driven? And if it's notification driven, are you aware and are you okay with having algorithms determine who you pay attention to? How many are comfortable with that? Because algorithms might know us better than we know ourselves. How many of you are comfortable with the algorithm telling you who you pay attention to? Okay, so Michael says weather service. Actually, me too. That's good because I wouldn't. That wasn't where I was going with that, but it's probably true. I probably do pay attention to weather first because I want to know, what I need to prepare, how much time to drive here, blah blah blah. We just got a new dog. A rescue dog. So now I have to pay attention to, is it going to pour? Do I need to get rain gear on to walk the dog? Just another thing. All right. So Marjorie says, to what you need to move forward related to your goals and strategies. Okay. This is good. I think this is really important. And you might read this and say, oh, okay, well, yeah, obviously. This is not obvious. So this is a rubber chicken. Marjorie or Kitty, this is a rubber chicken. Because, so the 80-20 rule, 20% of the information you get, I guess if you're applying it to this information. Aha. Salik Shams from New Delhi. Welcome, 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 welcome. So Barkley says it's more often feed driven than notification driven for me. Okay. So, and maybe there's a distinction because maybe you don't have notifications on, but still the algorithms are telling you what to pay attention to. All right. So I've been collecting a little bit of this interesting phenomenon, which is, and I've seen it, I would say in the last 2 months a lot. And tell me if you have seen this too, where people who are really interested in a particular issue, like early education or homelessness in a particular city or particular plight in a particular country like Yemen or entrepreneurship in Pakistan or the permafrost melting or sports. Some people are very concerned here in this country with what's happening with, sports teams. And the big one, politics. And so whoever is really feeling that this is the important information, what you should pay attention to, accuses other people who don't pay attention to the same thing as putting their head in the sand. Putting their head in the sand. All right, so here you are, good thinkers. What do you think? You cannot believe that people don't pay attention to who? And all the other people are putting their head in the sand. Anyone? I can't believe that you're not paying attention to, some politician here or some, educator or some climate scientist or some researcher researching the next how we're gonna deal with the post-antibiotic era. I mean, everyone who thinks that who they pay attention to or what they pay attention to is the most important They think everyone else is kind of putting their head in the sand. So who do you pay attention to that you cannot believe people don't pay attention to this person? All right. So why do you pay attention? And if you share in the chat, this is going to be good. So why do you pay attention to who you pay attention to? And I'm going to give you some options so you can share in the chat. All right. Number one, is it because you want to be able to have a conversation with people online and seem knowledgeable? How many of you want to admit, number one, I want to have a conversation online and seem knowledgeable? Okay. How about this? Number two, because you work in an area that is deeply affected by who you are paying attention to. Maybe it's your boss. It's, the CEO of a company that you're trying to sell products to. It's work related. How many of you it's work related? How many of you, and it could blend, but you have to be honest. What is the main driver of who you pay attention to? Okay. That's the next one. How about this one? 3, because the idea of being an informed person means that you're informed about the things that this person is talking about specifically. These are things I do not choose to ignore. Like, I always pay attention to what, I don't know what, this politician or this sports official or this scientist or this educator or this artist or this, botanist, whatever. Okay, so let's see. Let me see what we've got. So let's see. We got Barclay. We got that comment. Okay, Marjorie says, changes happening that will affect you, but prefer not to listen. Excellent. Yes. Knowing for the purpose. Okay, so for knowing the purpose. Okay, elaborate a little bit, Hari, because that's interesting. Depends on your field. Okay, does it depend on your field? Like if I'm in tech, but I always want to pay attention because I'm particular. Maybe my work isn't the only thing I'm interested in, but I always want to pay attention because there is this artist that is doing work in Milan that seems to be on the cutting edge of all kinds of things. And that could apply to my life or my work, or it's just something fun to think about, or it's eye candy. There's all different reasons. Work related. Abu Bakr says work related. Marjorie says work. Christina says definitely work related. Othman says touching my need. Okay. Abdurrahman says 1 and 2. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple other ones. See what you think. Do you pay attention? Here's my question. Ready? Do you pay attention to easy things or hard things? Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being really hard things or people who talk about very complicated things, or 1, people who talk about not hard things, not complicated things. Who do you pay attention to, or what content is about who? Because we're going to get into who. So we'll keep it on the who side, which is related to what? Do you pay attention to people who talk about hard, complex things to you? Maybe they're hard or complex to some people, not to you, or easier things. All right. So Barclay says mostly 1 and 2. Okay, so I don't know if you're answering the other one. Sorry, I'm confusing the issue on the chat. Okay, so Melinda says 3. So 3, medium thing. So maybe I pay attention to someone or something. I just proof that I'm still alive. Yes, sometimes that's a really good one. Just, hey, I'm here. I'm figuring this stuff out. I'm thinking. I'm just doing it for my own lifelong learning and advancement. Michael says, it is essential to listen to multiple people with different views in order to understand reality. I couldn't agree with you more. How do you listen to people who you think have a view that's kind of crazy, though? How do you do that? Definitely hard things. Ooh, Abdurrachid, definitely hard things. So Christina's a 4 to 5, so harder things. Some people, Steve Johnson, I like hard things. They drive me to be better. I wonder, do you think that people who are kind of into this good thinking stuff maybe prefer hard things? I'm not saying it's better to think of hard things or easy things. I like to think of a lot of easy things. But I enjoy hard things too, unless they get too hard and then people are talking and I feel like it's outside my boundary of competency. So I'm like, I can't access that. Then I'm like, oh, maybe I step back a little bit. All right. Marjorie says we are in tech. So sometimes it could be both. Absolutely. Tech can be both because you can be on the business side where it's really hard for some people, and on the tech side or the engineering side where it's really hard for other people. So it depends. But to you, I'm talking about to yourself. Like, do you gravitate toward hard? So Michael says 3, mostly complex issues, Ray says. Barclay says, the harder the topic, the more carefully I think about who I'm paying attention to. Okay. Barclay has a little inside scoop because he was my co-creator on the course, Anticipating the Future as a Leader. All right, because everyone is different and everyone is affected differently. If this is the reason, why don't you pay attention to different stuff? Why? What's the reason that you wouldn't pay attention to someone? What's the reason? And how does this relate to what you pay attention to? How can we separate who we pay attention to from what we pay attention to, and should we? There's no shortage of people willing to share their vision of the future. There is no shortage of people willing to share their vision of the future. So opinion writers and public intellectuals, they talk about the future all the time, but they typically don't express their convictions precisely enough to allow for accurate performance tracking. Okay, so here is the next question. Before I do that, I'm going to say, okay, Abu Bakr, easy is better. Abu Bakr, easier is better. Easier sometimes is. Depends. And I like your honesty. Okay, I would say that they're more oriented to hard things because it allows them to practice and challenge their thinking. And I know from Abdurrashid, I know that a lot of people love to challenge their thinking. But some people don't. Some people don't. That's okay. Some people don't. I guess we all like different things. Marjorie says, I want to have an overall understanding of things, but do not need to be inundated with information. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. All right. So here's the prediction. Are you ready for the prediction? And then I'm going to ask you, how valuable is this prediction? And then I'm going to have you think about, who do you listen to that makes these kinds of statements or predictions? All right, here it is. This is a real one. Facebook will likely remain the dominant social network for years to come. All right. Okay. Here's another one. We'll rate this one. I don't want to confuse the issue. But that comment is kind of like, hybrid is the future. Hybrid work is the future. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, that's not very valuable, 5 being, that's really valuable, how valuable is the prediction, which is a real prediction from a real futurist? Facebook will likely remain the dominant social network for years to come. Is that a super useful number 5 prediction or not very useful number 1? What do you think? Who's going to put it in the chat? And as you do that, we're going to tweak it slightly, because the problem with this statement, okay, after Rajit's we're getting some good responses. I'll bring them in a minute. The problem with this statement is really twofold. Using loosey-goosey language, and Abdurrashid nails it right here. Dominant in which aspect? One of the things, for those of you critical thinking, lovers of critical thinking, one of the things that is very helpful is to make concepts clear. Make concepts clear. Dominant. What does that even mean? Okay, so Marjorie says 2, 1. Bretta says 2. Steve says 1. Steven says, sometimes our filtering is unconscious, as when social media feed algorithms decide for us what we'll be exposed to. Yes, that's probably a bigger determinant of who we pay attention to than anyone wants to admit. Ray says 1. So not a very useful prediction. For most people who voted, that's not a very useful prediction. Ali Aksandar says 1. Yeah, exactly. Not very useful. And yet, isn't that what we mostly hear from futurists? And we're going to get into the last 5 minutes. We're going to nail an alternative. All right. What about this one? Here's another prediction. Then you're going to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. There's a 95% probability that Facebook will have more than 2.5 billion monthly users 1 year from today on, what's the date? I'm just making this up. September 12th, 2023. All right. Now, this is a dangerous prediction for an expert to make. And this is a hint at a little tool you're going to use to know who you should pay attention to. And this is in the course, but you're going to get a little sneak peek. Do you think this is a useful prediction? More useful or less useful? Is it a 5 or is it a 1? And if you voted for the first one, 1, is it moving up or is it equally not useful? The problem with this is it's falsifiable. And that makes it very useful for tracking the accuracy, calibrating the confidence of who you're going to pay attention to, or your confidence in that person. All right. So if you get that level of specificity, we are going to then skip ahead to tell you what category of people provide this kind of predictive analytics, give a roadmap to the future, and how you can decide when you want that kind of who to pay attention to person or someone different. So hopefully this will make sense in just a minute. All right. So when it comes to knowing who you should pay attention to, I can't remember who said it. I think a couple of people said it. Raise your hand if you said it in the chat. It really depends on your purpose. And that's why we started the beginning by saying, why do you pay attention to who you pay attention to? Do you even know, or is it just an algorithm feeding it to you? And maybe the algorithm knows more about you than you know about yourself. But the first step in knowing who you should pay attention to is being very clear on your purpose. Why are you paying attention? Do you want to get involved? You're going to a party, you've got a work thing, you're going to a football game, you haven't really paid attention to what's happening, you're in a meeting on international aid, you want to know you're looking at your philanthropic situation, you want to know who to don't, whatever. What is your purpose? You're trying to figure out what to do with COVID. Should we book this trip? Do we wear a mask? This, that, the other, get the vaccination, whatever. All right. So when it comes to who to pay attention to, you can think of mice, M-I-C-E, mice. All right. These are 4 types of people who share information. And depending on your purpose, you can be very proactive and thoughtful about choosing who to pay attention to. The first type of people are the mobilizers. Mobilizers are different than influencers, the I, which are different than Cassandras, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, which are different than the experts. The mobilizers, their role is to persuade groups of people to adopt certain behaviors. So if you are listening to a mobilizer, that is very different than listening to an influencer or a Cassandra, which we'll get to, or an expert. Now, there's overlap, obviously, but if you try to tease out these, you'll have a much better way of thinking wisely about who to listen to. So the mobilizers, like here in the United States, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, they didn't traditionally do a lot of analytics on their own. I mean, they weren't like a research institute that was like looking at these different things, but they have historically been an organization that helps the country know what to do and guide the country towards certain behaviors. We're going to mobilize you to all wear a mask. We're going to mobilize you to all get this vaccination, et cetera. So you think about these mobilizers as having kind of an agenda, and it doesn't mean bad. Influencers, whether they're celebrities or brand fans, they built these strong relationships, mostly on social channels, and they have respected opinions about ideas that they may support or products. So people often choose to listen to mobilizers because of charisma and confidence, entertainment value. But they can, you can kind of get an idea of looking at trends. So if you're in a business that needs to kind of be aware of trends, which I would argue is, a lot of businesses, most businesses, it's good to know who are the influencers in this area, and sometimes going outside of your area. So that can be really helpful. Cassandras. So Cassandra is a myth where this priestess was given this power to see the future, but her curse, Apollo's curse, was that no one would listen to her. So you can hear people talk about Cassandras in business, like, who are the Cassandras? No one's listening to them, but they were right. It's always in hindsight. Oh, that person was telling about the economic downfall 3 years before anyone else. Oh, no one listened. They were a Cassandra. So the idea of the Cassandra in regard to mice is, how can you find those Cassandras before what their predictions, are true? So you track them because they're very specific. A lot of these Cassandras are competitors in predictive contests. And there's on the course, on our new course, Anticipating the Future as a Leader, we talk about some of the places you can go to find these. If you're really interested in predicting the future, you can compete, and it's very fun. And we provide some of those links and information in the course. But Cassandras tend to be very specific, like that very specific 95%, giving boundaries, being clear on language. What does it mean to be dominant? I think it was Abduraj's point. What does it mean to be dominant? What is the time frame? What are we talking about? Moving away from biased, mushy language to specific probabilistic language, so that you can track these Cassandras over time and hopefully remove Apollo's curse to listen to them for things like this, but it's not for everything. And finally, experts. So this is mice, mobilizers, influencers, Cassandras, and experts. And we're going to go just 1 or 2 minutes late, and because I want to finish, because with the experts have deep subject knowledge, domain knowledge, subject matter experts. But what we find in people who predict is they tend to have a broader understanding versus a deep understanding. So experts you can go to for very specific things, and it's great, but they tend not to be the best at measurable predicting of the future, because there's way too much uncertainty. And the people who are trained to predict, the Cassandras, they tend to be more accurate. All right. So who are your go-to mice? Sometimes experts are informed by Cassandras and whatever, but who are your go-to mice? So the thing to do this week that would be cool, and you can put it in the chat as the week goes on, because even after the live conversation, people can show up, is share. Who are your mobilizers? Who are your go-to mobilizers? Who are your go-to influencers? Who are your go-to Cassandras? And who are your go-to experts? And as you, maybe tomorrow, as you start to kind of wake up and go to your device, I mean, weather not included, Michael, I agree, we have to start there. But, maybe there's a person who understands weather that's more useful. I don't know. But before you default to having the algorithms tell you who you should pay attention to, take a step back. Just jot down. Who are the mobilizers? Who are your influencers? Who are your Cassandras? And who are your experts? Now, if you want, I'm going to say hi. Oh, Marjorie, who moved my cheese? Who moved my cheese? The mice. I didn't really like that book. Did you like that book? Anyway, I know it's a big, huge book. Maybe I just didn't get it. Hi from Istanbul. Servan, welcome. Okay, Christina, I think this is a great way to end it. I want to find my Cassandras. So if you are interested in finding Cassandras, and by that I mean people who really predict specific things, it can be a little scary because they put, and it will, and you go take the course, because not just because I'm pushing the course, because if you're interested in this kind of topic, you learn how to use and navigate through uncertainty in a very specific probabilistic way, which it's all backed by math, but it's not too mathy. Anyway, so if you go, you will find that there are places that you can go to find your Cassandras. The key is to not be searching for a Cassandra and landing on an influencer and conflating the two. Think mice, mobilizers, influencers, Cassandras, and experts. Have a great week. See you next Monday. Am I traveling next Monday? I'll be here, I think, next Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube Live. Have a great week. Thanks, good thinkers.